was working multiple jobs. I was feeling the stress of working multiple jobs. And I started to succumb to that pressure of like, I got to make something of myself. And in that moment, I had that limiting belief that what I was doing was not enough. So I ended up going down the path of corporate America and I started.
Welcome to the On the Path podcast, a conversation on navigating life. Join Chris Coker and Colin Creech as they have honest conversations with fellow travelers on the path. In each episode, they explore the physical, mental, and spiritual health aspects of the whole self, striving for personal accountability and a strong community. Gain insights, learn from our mistakes, and hear from guests who have mastered these areas. Step on the path, embracing every challenge and success along the way. See you on the path.
We always do a clap, Marci, because this is how Colin can easily find where the episode actually starts, because we tend to ramble, as you saw. So for everybody listening, we are really, really excited to have our friend Marci, and I mean that sincerely. She's a friend of ours because we've known her for a long time. And Marci, we were talking about this a little bit before we started the show, but one of the things we haven't really done is bring in people that are already in our network, people that we already know that are doing incredible things that are clearly kindred spirits. And so that's why I think is going to be a fantastic conversation. So we are very happy to have you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. I feel the honor because it's such a prestigious podcast with two amazing people. So I'm excited to be here.
Well, I know I'm amazing, but yeah, Chris, he is too, right? But
Yes, Colin.
we like starting with an icebreaker. And again, since we've known each other a long time, I really wanted to get creative with this one. So,
Oh boy.
stranded island question. Are
Oh,
you more
no.
of a castaway talking to a volleyball named Wilson, or more of a show like Survivor, building alliances and voting people off the island with coconuts? And if it's
Ooh.
Survivor, who's your first alliance and why is it me over Chris?
Oh my, I have to choose between the two of you? Oh,
If
that's
you
wrong.
choose the Survivor route.
So, see, I think I would go crazy if I was just talking to a volleyball for the rest of my life. So I think I would probably have to pick the Survivor. And I'm also competitive within myself. So I would be that individual that's like, no, I could do this. Even though I have zero skills whatsoever, I would put myself to task. So I probably would go the Survivor route.
That
And
makes
then
sense.
Colin, I mean, I love you. You're like a brother to me, but I got to be honest. I think I'm going to go with Chris.
I do want to talk about some very critical skills I think might be required on an island. I think given, trees and maybe the need to reach for things, might need to offset for one of you too. And I think that's why you might actually make a different decision. But
Are you leading the
regardless,
witness now, Colin?
Wow.
no, absolutely not. No, this is a conversation on the path. We're just having a conversation about navigating life on a desert island. But with that too, I really actually was thinking you were going to go the castaway route more so
Yeah.
because I feel like you would make this like epic place with the volleyball named Wilson. But what would you name your volleyball if you had gone that route?
Oh, if I went that route, I would probably have to name the volleyball after my dog because my dog Bucky is my man. And so I would probably have
Good
to
name.
at least feel like I was talking to somebody I knew if
And
I
when you
had to go
say,
that route.
your man, can you describe this dog though? The type, size, ferocity?
So keeping with the short theme, because I felt that dig in my soul. He's a little dude. He's a little corgi, little legs like his mother.
That's awesome.
I got him 5 years ago during COVID, and he's like my soul dog. So
That's awesome. I have 4 kids. My number 3 in the ranking, my older daughter, is obsessed with corgis. I don't really know why, because we don't have a corgi. I'm not sure she's seen a corgi in life, but something about the stubby legs just has like
they're hilarious.
captured her love and her interest. So
They're small but mighty. Well, I will be happy to hop on a Zoom with your daughter, and she can see my dog.
I'll have to keep that in mind. That's a great idea. So Marci, I want to dive in because what we could do is go through like your background over, the past like 10 plus years. But I think what is way more interesting is really the past couple. Like you have, and I think it'd be great for you to hit on the kind of the path that you've been on leading to, I won't spoil it for all the listeners, but kind of these life choices that you've made in recent history. So, because I think a lot's happened and it ultimately led to you going, you know what, I'm going to make
Yeah.
a significant choice here. And so I'd love for you to take people through kind of what is a little bit of your background and more importantly,
Yeah.
how did that shape this trajectory that you're on now?
I love that. So, it's funny because I've had a full circle moment. So when I was younger, I was always into health and wellness, and I saw myself going that route for years. I was even a personal trainer. And, I was working multiple jobs. I was feeling the stress of working multiple jobs. And I started to succumb to that pressure of like, I got to make something of myself. And in that moment, I had that limiting belief that what I was doing was not enough. So I ended up going down the path of corporate America and I started in
Mm-hmm.
recruiting, did that for several years, and then found myself working beside of both of you. And I loved human resources because at least it got me closer to the psychology of things, to the coaching, which is a huge passion of mine.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because, again, I say it was a full circle moment because about 3 years ago, I mean, we're talking this came out of nowhere. I was in my house and I was walking up the stairs and I was doing menial tasks. I think I was just doing laundry. And I walked into my room and I just had this moment of, what am I doing? Like, I'm actually not happy. And
Yeah.
that freaked me out. I had this moment of like, why am I asking myself these questions and why am I so freaked out about my life? Because on paper, everyone probably thought my life was perfect. I had, all the things that we think we need to have in life, right? And I started pulling that thread, and what it started to happen was a great unraveling of everything that I thought I wanted in life and who I was. And when I really sat with
Mm-hmm.
myself and I asked myself those tough questions of who really even am I and what am I doing here? What is my purpose? It started to become very clear to me that there was a misalignment between what I was doing and how I was doing it.
Yeah.
So I had to be very real in that moment to say, okay, what is it that I love? But is it I'm not doing it in the right place, or the way I'm doing it is not necessarily connected to that
Mm-hmm.
purpose? And once I started asking those questions, I realized that I've always been passionate about the wellness space, about empowering others, about coaching, about unlocking potential, about walking alongside of people to help them realize what their purpose is. So the irony of it is that full circle moment of I probably was starting off on the right path years ago with the health and wellness space, but I had to learn. I had to go through those lessons. And everything that I gained from working in human resources and helping leaders unlock their potential, it wasn't for nothing, right? It's
Yeah.
just, it helped me with that redirection and that full circle moment. So that was my
Yeah.
aha moment. And I said, well, that means I'm going to have to place the bet on myself and figure out what this is and what it looks like now.
Yeah. That's really good. I said it once. I'll say it again. But kindred spirits. I don't know if Colin told you about our this. Geez, at this point, Colin, couple of years ago, right? We were in Ithaca, and what you said, Marcy, about kind of that like existential moment of,
Yeah.
wait a second, what am I doing? That it hit me
Yeah.
too, like a ton of bricks. I asked Colin, like we had a discussion on where we ultimately landed was like the danger of unchecked mistakes. And what I mean by that isn't
Hmm.
like, like a big colossal screw up, but just
Right.
these little tiny changes and choices we're making in our life that are ultimately leading us down a path we don't necessarily know.
Yes.
And I am an eternal optimist. So I appreciate what you said about like
Yeah.
your path up to this point. It wasn't wasted time. The
No.
time you spent in corporate, the time you spent in HR, that was in service of the broader mission that you're now on.
Right.
However, there was kind of like a calibration that you went through.
Yes.
And now that you have kind of this like sense of clarity, which I really appreciate. So, uh, so
Yeah.
is there something that was missing? Like what was your corporate roles? Like what was it not giving you that you knew you're like, all right, I have to leave in order to
Yeah.
get this extra aspect in my life, this extra element? What was missing from corporate that you knew you weren't going to get there?
I love that question. And I think, when I started to pull that thread, and really sit with myself to say, who even am I and what do I want? I started to realize that there was a pattern in my life of people pleasing and living up
Mm,
to societal conditioning of what success looked like. And I
yeah.
was living my life through these goals and objectives that that were being set outside of me, right? And so
Yeah.
everything that I was, thinking about, I was like, wow, why does this feel like a lot of external validation versus what I'm giving
Mm,
myself? And I got to this point of uncomfortability where I said, am I going to continue down this path of allowing a company to dictate my value, my worth, who I am,
yep.
my path, or am I going to finally take ownership of this and do it for me and do it my way? And the universe is a funny thing, right? Because the universe is going to put you through the paces so that you can learn the lessons and then turn around and teach others.
Yeah.
So I always knew I
That's
wanted
really
my own
good.
business, but it's funny because at the time I kept saying, "Oh, that's my retirement plan," or, "Oh, I'll do that someday."
Yeah.
And what was happening is my future self was knocking on the door saying, "No, girl, like it's time now. Like you need to align with me now because there is a future you that's doing this and
Mm,
feeling empowered and actually feeling that internal validation that you've been seeking." So that's
yeah.
ultimately what started to happen.
Yeah.
And
That's
you guys
awesome.
were
Good for you.
really
I think that's
both,
awesome.
yeah, and you were both hitting on it too. And Marcy, it's so important we also do think about the journey when we look back, because if you just beat yourself up on, no, this is what I was supposed to do and then I got, lost along the way, but all these other experiences then gave you even more of that awareness, or also the experience to be able to feel confident enough to also make that shift and bet on yourself or believe in yourself. It
Yeah.
doesn't happen overnight. Um, I I think it really is a journey, but at the same time, one where you can either beat yourself up the entire way, or try to have some grace, because you know
Yeah,
you got to be your own best friend or validate yourself, as you were saying, and that's
so
so
true.
so critically important along this journey as well, because sometimes it's not going to make sense, or sometimes it's going to be really scary, but you got to work on that relationship with yourself at the same time.
It's so true. And it's mindset, right? If you
Yeah.
wake up every day and you say, "Oh my gosh, this happened to me and this happened to me and this happened," you're going to be in that mindset of like things are happening to me instead of what's happening for me. What is this trying to
Ooh,
teach me? What are the lessons here? And it's a small shift that you can make with the mind. And that's what I started doing. Like, what is happening for me? And even if it's uncomfortable, I mean, uncomfortability is not something that I believe you should run away from. If you're uncomfortable, it's because it's trying to get your attention. Something's trying to get your attention. And
yeah.
I just leaned into that uncomfortability to say, okay, what is happening for me? Why am I uncomfortable? And we're going to have to explore that.
I
Yeah.
I think I'd love to dig a little deeper in the uncomfortable part of things too. With, all right, you've got your successful career, you still got opportunities there, but having to leave behind that very safe life, and
Yeah.
then make a decision to bet on yourself, where there's not a guaranteed income, there's probably not health insurance, there's all these unknowns. How, how do you finally move forward with that decision? It can't be one where you're like, yeah, I got this, let's go. Was it full of
Yeah.
energy, or was it full of, oh, okay, I'm going to do this, but oh my gosh?
It's totally normal to have fear. I mean, fear
Yeah.
is an emotion that we feel. And I think there's nothing wrong with recognizing it. But the question is, do you allow that to define you, or are you going to use that to fuel what you're trying to get to? And I just used it for fuel. I'm like, if I'm scared or if I'm feeling that fear, it's because there's passion behind what I'm about to do. And I feel that, I do this with my clients a lot. I'm like, okay, what's the worst case scenario? And we always play worst case scenario. And it always makes me laugh because the worst case scenario is like you're on the street, you're homeless, you got nothing. I'm like, what's the first thing you're gonna do? You're homeless, you got no option. What are you doing? Everyone has an answer and a solution that gets them back to a good place. So for me, I was like, this isn't a capability issue. This is me giving myself permission. This is a permission issue, not a
Mm,
capability issue. And a lot of times that's what it
yeah.
is for people. It's never because you're not capable.
Yeah.
And as you were
Yeah. I
saying
completely
that
agree. It
too,
makes me think like, go ahead,
go
Colin.
ahead, Chris. Oh, by all means, sir, go ahead.
It makes me, I'm thinking, Marcy, about like what you said about fear. I think is like feel your feelings, right? Like fear has a place right
Yeah,
next to every other emotion on the spectrum, and that's
that's
okay.
it.
And I think, yeah, tell my boys this as well, but especially with my daughters, I tell them, like, be afraid, that's fine, but don't let the
Nothing wrong with it.
fear paralyze you. Like feel that feeling and then internalize it to a point where you have a path forward where you can move beyond it. And what you said before, I clearly positioned you in a place of gratitude of like, well, I get to do this, right? Because
Yeah.
I wanted to know, like, what are those things that you're thinking about as far as like, how do you steel yourself to staying on the path you're on now and to not fall
Yeah.
back, right? Corporate at this point, it's almost like a blessing and a curse, but it's always going
Yeah.
to be your safety net, right? You've done it. You
Yes.
know, you could do it again.
Yes.
But it sounds like you're like, as you come across these struggles, your approach is like, well, I get to go through this. I get to
Yes.
experience that. And it's just all you're doing is adding more tools to the tool bag along the way.
And Chris,
Absolutely.
as you were saying too, I mean, not acknowledging different emotions, I think sometimes create a bigger problem because you're like, oh, I got to be courageous. Well, being courageous is the ability to do something, even through the fear. I mean, it's not
Yes.
something,
Yeah.
it's not courageous if there's not some sort of fear or obstacle or being scared alongside of it.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody that will tell you that they've never experienced fear. The most
Yeah.
successful people
Yeah.
experience fear. The most successful people that you see still have that voice of doubt in their head. The differentiator there is that they just push through it. They hear that voice and they say, nah, not today. Right? And they just
Yeah.
push through it. So that's really the only differentiator. We're all human beings having an experience. We're all going to face these things. We're all going to stumble. We're all going to make mistakes. That's the whole point. You're supposed to make mistakes. That's how you learn. That's how you grow. So I just feel very strongly that if I'm going to walk the walk and I'm going to help others, you know, I got to put myself through the paces too. Nothing in life comes easy. Sometimes you have to be able to lean into that and say, but it's going to
Yeah.
be worth it. It's going to be worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
And you're going to keep learning along the way. You've got X amount figured out now. And I think that's where the lifelong journey part of things comes into play because
Yeah.
I don't think anybody knows it all. And at the same time, that's kind of part of what also makes it exciting is you've got this much information and now you're taking the next step and you'll get this much more information. I'm sure even in the past few months as you've been, we'll transition to it, but, building your new business, you've probably learned, oh, I'm really actually great at this, or you think it'd be easy to create an email template and send it, but oh my gosh, it's not. And so again, it's just you've got all these experiences, you're able to use them. And again, you're still learning too. And I know you, when you're thinking about helping others too, but you're also really great at asking for help when you need it. I think it's so
Yeah.
important to be able to practice what you preach at the same time. And I know you, and I know that's a core part of also what makes you great. But
Thanks,
transitioning
Colin.
there, because I don't think you're eating just top ramen yet and living on the streets. So far, so good. But,
I'm
you
still
Yeah.
know,
I'm still doing good. No, it's so true. And that's why, even the philosophies, like I always talk to my clients about this. There's a reason Socrates said, know thyself. It is such a powerful thing when you think about it, because sitting with yourself and truly understanding what it is that makes you tick is so important. You can come up with a list of 25 goals, but if it's not really
yeah.
aligned to who you are, then what's the point?
Yeah.
What's the point? And we are very resourceful, and we're more resourceful than we give ourselves credit for a lot of the time. Even when you think you can't do something, sometimes it's like, well, is it because I can't do it or is it because I've never tried? And a
Yeah.
lot of times it's because you haven't really tried.
I think
Yeah.
that's why you've gone the survivor route on our icebreaker question,
Yeah.
right? You're like, all right,
See?
I don't want to do this alone, so I'll figure out how to work with Chris to make it through this show.
Yeah.
Wrong
Yeah.
choice, but kind of
We
leaning
learned how
then
to climb a tree. It
into
was fine. It was-
Yeah,
ah,
exactly. And you know what,
there's my one
Colin? I
skill.
love you to death, but you're susceptible to injury. So maybe that's why I took
To
Chris.
what?
Yeah. You got to be
Injuries.
made of
Oh,
hardier stuff.
oh,
Too
oh.
susceptible to injury.
But the good thing is I do survive, though. You can't deny
That
that.
is true. See, you're a great
Lived to
you're a
tell the
great
tale.
example of
What
that.
doesn't kill you sometimes makes you stronger,
You're
not
a great
always.
example of that. Yes.
But we'll never break the left femur again. Anyways, back to you, Marci, and again, now looking ahead, you've started session coaching and wellness.
Mhm.
I think what's more important before we dive into what you're doing with this new business is why the name. What's behind
Yeah.
the name? Why did you choose that specific name, which is really beautiful? But I'd like to hear it in your words.
Yeah, absolutely. So, while I was also doing a lot of my studies and practice within coaching, I started to study a healing system called Sekhem, which is basically a modern day version of an ancient Egyptian healing practice. And it does wonders for the nervous system, calms, helps remove blocks, limiting beliefs. I've literally gotten rid of stress, anxiety, migraines since working with the energy system myself. And as I was starting to study it, I came across the name Seshen, which is the Egyptian word for the lotus flower. And I was like, man, that's calling to me because the lotus flower has to grow through mud. And it's
Mm.
beautiful and it's amazing to look at. But what people don't realize is what it's had to do in order to get there, to reach the sun, to be amazing, to open up every day. It's got to literally grow through that mud. So that resilience spoke to me. And it made sense to use that for my business name.
That's really good.
Yeah.
It's the obstacle is the way. That is the path, right?
Yes.
And so you're diving into this new business, are all about empowering growth through experience and purpose combined with this ancient practice. What's the experience been like so far? What's been some awesome early wins? What's been some challenges? I'd love to hear about that experience to date because it's still relatively new. You
Yeah.
just made this big shift in your life.
Yes, I did. So the challenges are it's the funny stuff, right? Because you realize you're like, "Oh, I have to do this." And then you're looking at yourself, "No, no, you're the boss. Like you actually have to figure this out. You don't have an IT department and other people." So, I mean, I was laughing because there was one day where it was like the silliest stuff about my website and it migrating appropriately to my email. And that was such a great example because again, it was a challenge. I was getting frustrated, I was getting annoyed, and I was like, "Hold on a second. I could figure this out. Like I got this." And I figured it out on my own and I was so proud of myself, but it's little stuff like that they don't realize is waiting for you that could potentially disrupt that momentum. So that was one of the first things I was like, "Oh man, I got to be I am my own IT."
Yep.
So that was an interesting experience, but I think the wins are and the feeling and the sensation that I get when I see my clients have aha moments, or I'll get a response back from them, and I get, like, emotional, like, the emails that I get back saying, like, "Marcy, you have no idea what that session did for me today," or, "Oh my gosh," I had somebody email me saying, "I just wanted you to know, like, my wife was actually listening in the background, and she said that that was the best 40 minutes she spent for her whole day." And I wasn't even coaching her, I was coaching her husband.
That's
But
super cool.
yeah, but she listened in and she was like, "I'm feeling empowered." And so those are the things that it just it connects you back to your why. Like what is it that is my why and why am I doing the things that I'm doing? And that's it. And unlocking potential in others or helping them get to that moment of clarity is one of my most favorite things, honestly.
Yeah. One of the things, this is going to sound like a totally random anecdote, but I swear I'm going to pull it back in. Like a few years ago, I ran a marathon and, at the time I was relatively new to the neighborhood I'm in now. And so I didn't really know anybody. So I was doing it on my own, which is fine. I was able to do it. But along the way, like this older gentleman, and I'm like 75 years old, like he was an older gentleman, always running past me the other direction. And then finally one morning he turned around and he just ran alongside me. And this is when I met my neighbor, Tom, and he was 75 years old. He
Nice.
trained the back half of my marathon training with me all the way up to like the 24-mile runs. And I was just like, one, floored that this man would do
Yeah.
this. And he's been an inspiration since. He still lives like half a mile down the road from me. But I remember talking to him, and we'd spent hours and hours together. So I was able to joke with him. And I just remember asking him, like, you really put a lot of effort in this. Like,
Yeah.
why? Is it because you're 75? Like, you're tackling life with a sense of urgency? And he was
Yeah.
like, yeah, of course. Like, I need to go at this with a sense of urgency because I don't have a lot of time left. But he was like, don't forget, neither do you. And it just kind of like, it really hit me where I was like, man, here's this person who's almost twice my age, who is pacing me on a 20-mile run, which I mean, I'm not fast, but still it's
Yeah.
insane to me. But that just always stuck where I was like, you know what?
Yes.
He's right. Like I might be younger, but I still need to approach life with a sense of urgency. And through the course of the show that that Colin and I have been having these conversations with these incredible people we've been lucky to have, that's kind of become one of the tells. Like when I
Yeah.
look at somebody, I'm like, okay, we should bring them on the show because they are understanding of their own path. That's one of the tells I've started to see is this sense of urgency where they're like, oh, I know this is going to have some challenges, but I'm going to face those challenges head on because I got to do this. Like, I got to do this and I'm not going to wait around. I
Yeah.
got to do it now. And just over the course of the past, I don't know what, 30, 35 minutes we've been talking, Marcy, it's like, I see that in spades with you. It's like, I got to get
Mhm.
after this. There's like an urgency um, to how you approach that. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. I really appreciate the way you've positioned, how you're going about this and how you're shaping your life moving forward.
I love that, and, good for him. I mean, that's the thing, right? If not now, when? Like,
Yeah.
when then? And that's what I kept asking myself. It's like, "Well, are you just gonna keep kicking the can down the road, or are you gonna actually do something about it?"
Yeah, yeah, exactly. How do you so you have a very like inviting approach, very warm, very welcoming. Like how do you when you coach your clients, when you're like I like they don't have that fire in their belly, like how do you
Yeah.
get them there? How do you get them through the like over those humps of like look, I know you can do it. Now you need to show yourself that you can do it.
Oh, yeah.
Cause does it require a little bit of tough love? Is there like another side of Marcy that
Yeah.
only the clients get to see? Like, how does that work for you?
There's 110% another side of Marcy. So, I am a very warm, nurturing person, but make no mistake, if you are signing a contract with me to work with me as a coach, I'm gonna be all over you to get results. So,
Yeah.
it's just how I'm wired because I never say something unless I'm going to do it. So, I don't say things and just say, "Oh, yeah, I'll do" no, I'm doing it. So, I turn around and wanna instill that same fire, that same passion, that same mentality. And so, I
Yeah.
tell everybody all the time, "Don't come to me until you're ready then." Because if you're somebody that is going to just talk yourself into circles, then I'm not your coach because
Yeah.
we're leveling up over here, like, get in.
That's
So
great.
that's always been my mentality. So people are sometimes a little surprised by that, right? When they see
Yeah.
that switch in me that I'm like, "Hold on a second, you said you were going to do this and you didn't, let's talk about it." It's like,
Yeah.
"Whoa, okay, she means business." So, yeah, that's
And
fun to do that bait and switch on them, Chris.
and
It is.
and I
They
and
need it.
I can say for sure because we met 7 years ago at work was I think you didn't necessarily say it this way, but you were like, oh, you're lost, but you're not a bad person. I'm gonna help you out here,
Yeah,
and you're really also great at being really good friend, but also the accountability part is so important. And Chris and I talk about it all the time. This strong community, you gotta have your own
Yeah.
personal accountability, but at the same time
yes.
you always can't always do it alone. It starts with you, but sometimes you got to ask for help. And
Yeah,
and I'd love to hear from you too as you're looking forward. What's your vision? What are you manifesting for your business? And honestly, at the same time, the more people that come to you, the more I think success they'll see in their own lives, but also
yeah.
experience
Mhm.
that you'll continue to grow because you're already so accomplished at it. And I can say that from my experience 7 years ago.
I appreciate that. Yeah. So I have big dreams. This was never meant to just be, Marcy opens a business and she just does one on one coaching. So this has led to me creating. I feel like the second I walked away from what was no longer meant for me, you almost like you're emptying the container, right? And you're saying, okay, if I'm gonna bring in everything that's meant for me, I have to be comfortable emptying the container out so that I can make room for those things. And what started to happen when I walked away from the career in HR, I was like, wow, I have not been tapping into my creativity as much as I thought I was. And just that space to create has been just so invaluable. So, I mean, I'm writing a book. I've written 2, journals and guidebooks already. I have big plans to eventually have a center someday. I see myself continuing to work with veterans. I mean, Colin, you know this. I started doing volunteer coaching with the Honor Foundation. I have big dreams for this business. And so eventually what I see is that, I'm going to need people who will work with me. So I love what you said about the community because I am going to want a community of people. This was never meant to just be, hey, Marcy does this and that's it. We're going to continue on. And I'm just
Yeah.
really excited to see where that leads.
Yeah. There's a, have you ever heard the comedian Nate Bargatze?
Yes.
Oh, I
Okay.
love him.
Yeah.
Love him. He's hilarious. I'll pick up his book at some point, but
Yeah.
I've
And
watched all
Nate,
his skits.
come on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Marci is
Yeah.
clearly probably the best guest we've had ever, but you'd be all right on this show.
His
So,
his SNL skit, the George Washington thing, is just like
I can't with
next
that
level.
one.
Yeah.
both of them.
But
So
so
good.
the reason I bring him up is I saw this. I think it was on like LinkedIn, so I'll have to corroborate that this is actually accurate. But
Mhm.
regardless, the quote was pretty good, and I guess he had said that your goals should be things that are small enough. If you aren't able to accomplish them when you said you would, you should be kind of embarrassed.
Yeah.
Versus your dreams should be so big you're nervous to say them out loud.
Oh, yeah.
And I appreciate that about the angle you're taking. Like you just said, like Colin said, what's on the horizon for you? I've got dreams. That's the perfect answer. Like there's
Mhm.
the sky's the limit of what you can
Yeah.
achieve, and who knows what that'll look like, but you've got a North Star in a direction that you're heading. And then you're just like welcoming kind of the experiences and the journey along the way, which I think is
Absolutely.
for everybody listening. I wanted to really hit that one on the head because I
Love
think
it.
for me that's a critical takeaway from today is like, look, there are things that I'm going to accomplish that are so big I don't even really know what they are yet. But you
Exactly.
know what? Bring it on, which I think is awesome.
Yeah. Why put a cap on the potential? If you have that passion in your heart, let it grow. Plant the seed, let it grow, watch it grow, and you can have big dreams. And it's also okay to sort of surrender to that and say, okay, maybe it might look a little different a few years from now, but here's what I know about myself. Here's what I know my mission is, or here's what I know I would like to achieve, and then just
Yeah.
plant away.
Mhm.
And that's honestly what I see myself doing. I've always enjoyed supporting the veteran community. I've always known that, my place was there in some capacity. And the more I coach and continue to coach veterans, I'm like, it's just so clear that that's going to be part of my path as well. So
Yeah.
I feel that
Yeah.
there's a lot of resources out there for you all, but there's still something missing. And I feel that I really am somebody that wants to bring that to the table. So
Yeah.
more to come. We'll see what that looks like.
That's awesome.
And
Mhm.
as I've known you, you're always doing a little something to grow personally. You can't use your finance class as the example for this question because that might be more torture as we were sharing with each other offline. I mean, that is
God.
growth, but not the one I'm looking for here. But what are some things you're doing at this moment on your own path to continue to grow and refine yourself?
The number one thing, it's actually kind of a surprising answer because everybody thinks that you have to do something, some sort of big activity. The number one thing I do every day that helps me stay connected and helps me bring in ideas and helps me stay centered is meditation. It is the
Mm.
number one thing I do every single day. I just sit, I clear the mind, I shut the mind off actually. And I just sit and I listen. And what comes out of that is then I end up coming out and I journal and I'm like, wow, there's this idea, there's this idea. And that's where the idea for the book came from. There's so many
Mm.
things that are flooding into my mind. So the more I meditate and connect within and just be silent for a little bit with myself, I'm finding that that's been the number one practice for me. The other thing too is that we move 150 miles an hour and sometimes we forget that that stress stays in the body. So exercise, I know, Colin, you're making your face.
No, I
Exercise
was
especially.
acknowledging is like, yep.
I know, exercise especially, but, and getting back into the gym and getting into a routine, those are things that I was missing again. Like I was doing them sort of, right? And I was like, "Oh, all right, but, I have to have this meeting and I got to be ready for this." And I started sacrificing the
Mm.
self-care a lot. So I didn't realize how much I was sacrificing that. And now I'm like, this is my own business. Like, if I wanna go lift weights at noon, I'm gonna go lift weights at
Do it.
noon.
Yeah.
And exactly, and giving yourself, again, that permission to really embody the wellness, embody the self-care has been a game changer for me.
Yeah. That makes total sense. And yes, I agree. Like, and by the way, self-awareness is a wildly underappreciated skill,
Yes.
which again, you're just kind of like hitting on over the past like 30, 40 minutes. Like, hey, let's just like be aware of our thoughts and our feelings and the choices that we're making and be
Yes.
deliberate about them. So look, Marcy, first of all, incredibly proud of you, what you
Thank
have
you.
chosen to do, and how you're showing up every day now. I think it's incredible, and you're a testament, by the way, because you and I haven't had the chance to speak like in a while.
I know.
And I love friendships like this one where we don't have to, right? Like it can be a little bit of time, and then we can pick up right where we left off when we have a
Absolutely.
conversation. So I think this has been a great chance to catch up with you, to hear how you're doing. We will, of course, keep tabs on how you continue to develop yourself, your career, and
Thank
your
you.
and your clients over time. Before we wrap up, though, I want to make sure that everybody that has stuck around, they've listened, they really want to learn more. Where do we send them if they need to know more about Marcy and Seshen? Like, where do we send them? How do we get them involved in your network and in your community?
Well, I know you're not on Instagram, Chris, but I am. So you can find me on Instagram
His
at
profile's
Seshen.
there. It's a
You can find me on Instagram at Seshen Coaching, and I also have a website, sessioncoaching.com. So yeah, I would say go to my Instagram page first because I post a lot there. I have a lot of free downloads, digital downloads. My journals are all there too, and engage with me and send me a DM. I offer a free consultation, so if people are even thinking about coaching and what that looks like. And for the record, my client list is very diverse. I mean, I've coached people around spirituality, around relationships, around their career, um, around multiple different topics. So that's the thing, is that you are the product because you are at the center. So it doesn't matter if it's something that you're struggling with and you're like, wow, I really could use somebody who can hold space for me and help me stay accountable. And then my other clients are my energy healing clients whose minds have been blown by how dysregulated their nervous systems have been. So I've been getting a lot of clients that way too. So yeah, find me on Instagram and
Awesome.
let's chat.
That's awesome. Instagram and, of course, sessioncoaching.com. We'll make sure that we have the links in the description of the show so you can go in and just click right in. We'll make it super easy for you. So, Marcy, thank you. You are the bomb. This has been truly a pleasure. So thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. It's so great to
Thanks,
see both of
Marcy.
you, and stop being a stranger, Chris.
I will. I will indeed.
Yeah, Chris.
With that,
Stop
Colin,
being a
I
stranger.
think that's a wrap.
That's a wrap. I'll see you on the path.
See you on the path.